Hey everybody, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Like always, you can go to www.audibletrial.com/TNRL and sign up for a free 30-day trial. And with that free 30-day trial, you get a free download of your choice. That's it. It is free. Doesn't cost you anything. www.audibletrial.com/TNRL for your free audiobook download. Audible.com's got over 100,000 titles available for your Kindle, iPod, iPad, MP3 audio device of your choice.
You're getting good at that.
Jesus got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read that Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I am a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very line the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion.
Hey everybody, it is Monday, June 11th, 2012. I'm your host, Ken. All the way across the country we have Bob
How's it going?
and Jason.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
And the first thing I wanted to dive into, I was just going through my email, and I actually didn't even plan on talking about this today. But the Pew Research study came out with a new study on belief and non-belief. And one of their findings is ridiculous. They did a 5-year study. Back in 2007, they discovered that millennials, like kids who are going into college now, 5 years ago, had 15% rate of not identifying with a religion. 15% were nones. And in the last 5 years, it's jumped to 31%.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, no other group increased more than 2%, but this one more than doubled itself.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I was thinking like maybe we could talk about why that is, or why we think that might be.
You know, like all those studies and surveys, they're really tricky when you look at them. They really have to be scrutinized. Like you have to look at how they asked the questions and how they polled the people. But Pew Research is pretty reliable. They're a pretty reliable source, and it's interesting that they came out with that finding. I like it.
Yeah, they're good, and what's the other one? The Religious Identification Survey is usually good because their question usually isn't, are you an atheist? Are you an agnostic? Are you whatever? The question is, what religion do you identify as? And this, it should be noted that this 31% is the nones, the people who say, I don't identify with any religion. They might be agnostics. They might be atheists. They could just be sort of nominal Christians who don't really go to church or don't identify as Christians, but might have some sort of vague spirituality. But it's interesting to see that gap sort of growing,
Well, it's interesting that it grew so large so quickly.
Yeah. I think part of it might have to do with, the internet.
Damn that internet.
Damn that internet. When information goes out there, it's like when the printing press came around. You saw mass production of Bibles. You had the Reformation, and because of everyone getting their hands on the printed word and being exposed to new ideas, you saw the church from being, before that, it's very monolithic Catholic structure that, there wasn't really, they were the only game in town. And then you had a Reformation, and then just a fracturing of everything. You have all these different sort of branches of Protestantism, like diverging out depending on interpretations. And because of that, it sort of like it sowed an amount of disbelief and criticism, which allowed for the Enlightenment to take place.
It's funny how much power a little knowledge has.
Yeah, but I think in the wake of the internet, we're seeing something like that happen again, but on a much faster, much bigger scale. Where, with the internet, you're seeing more than ever, Christian denominations and religious denominations getting, more and more fragmented into tighter and tighter knit groups, and we're seeing sort of a neo-reformation with people. Did you see neo-enlightenment?
There was a study. I think I read it in like maybe Wired magazine or something that they said that the least secure sites on the internet and the places most likely to have malware and viruses are religious church sites.
Yeah, as opposed to porn sites.
And I think it's funny. It's not that they're doing anything malicious. It's not like that the churches are doing anything malicious. It's just that, one, they lack the technical expertise to make their sites virus free, and there's so many of them, and everybody has this association that the best way to crap up your computer is a porn site, but they have a vested interest in keeping their sites virus free, and they spend money to do so, and they have the money and the technical expertise to do it, whereas churches are just sort of now figuring this out.
Well, they have the money, and
they don't have the technical expertise.
They don't. And what is crazy is that, you know how many churches have the TriCaster? A lot.
More than us.
A lot. I mean, if you look for like used TriCasters, they all come from churches.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we bought this $20 million thing,
and we don't know
what to do with it, so we're getting rid of it. And I'm just like, I want that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not like wagging my finger at the church websites for being victim of this, but I think they are victims of modern technology in that sense.
Yeah,
and and I guess that fragmentation you're talking about is that's just them being victims of the information age.
Yeah, right. It's like I said, before the printing press, you had Catholicism. You had Orthodoxy in the East too, but I mean, in the West, you had Catholicism. That was it. There was one church, one interpretation, because information was limited. As information grew, people began to interpret things, and you can see it in Protestantism when they sort of move towards the literal reading of the Bible. The whole idea of a sensus literalis was that even in the Middle Ages, they knew a text could be read any way you wanted it to be. It's phenomenology. You can read a text and be like, I think it means this, therefore it means this. So they wanted to put a stranglehold on that, but it seems like as they encouraged people to read Bibles, regardless of whatever constraints they put on people as to how they read it, there was still the fracturing, like I said, which led to the Enlightenment. And I think it's happening again as information technology grows, because the internet is really like our printing press.
So from the standpoint of a secularist, would you say that this information boom is a good thing, even with all the pitfalls that come with it, the things like disinformation and bad information and outright lies?
Sure.
'Cause those come along with it.
I think information is always a good thing. More information is always better than less information. That said, I think there's a societal duty to instill children at a young age with critical faculties so they can determine what is good information and what is bad information. So when they see, some crazy conspiracy theory or like a Vaxxer website, they know, hey, this is crap and this is why it's crap, rather than just sort of embracing everything that gets thrown at them.
Well said. I think that's a perfect answer, and I feel exactly the same way. And it's a little bit off topic, I guess. But did you see on that Facebook thread that you had about the we talked about it last week about the Jehovah's Witnesses getting their child blood transfusion?
Yeah. I saw it. I was on the.
That dude
I was traveling, but I saw it.
In that discussion thread, I got gish galloped with videos.
Oh, I know, because there's a billion YouTube videos about nonsense.
But we're talking about that, evaluating things in this information age. My approach to the argument was, here's a paper refereed in a scholarly journal that's peer reviewed and criticized, and it supports this claim. And then the response was like, some quack in a video saying something, another quack in a video saying something, another talking head, another talk. It was just like boom, 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 all these videos all in a row. And I was like, and what I started to do was I started to address each one. I was like, oh, well, the person in this video, they're so-and-so, and they have this crazy belief, and this is their track record, and this is what they have to say about things. So, boom, unreliable source. But then, like, they just started stacking up. I couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah, it's, like I said, more information is definitely going to lead to more quackery, especially when people lack basic, critical thinking skills. If you can't discern, crap from, actual good material, it becomes really difficult. It's like I say, closed minds are terrible because bad ideas are just stuck in them, and good ideas can't get in. But minds that are so open that your brain sort of falls out, sort of anything can get in, including crap. So what we need is to train people to have a brain that is closed off enough to keep good ideas in and discerning enough to keep bad ideas out.
Right. Keep an open mind, but not so open your brains fall out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's think about this from the other side of the table. What if you were a very religious person and were concerned with orthodoxy and were concerned with homogeneity of thought? How would that person look at the internet and the information age?
I'm sure it's a spectrum of belief, but I think we can look back to back when the printing press was first coming out, the super religious were not stoked about it. It's sort of I think it's telling that the first things printed on the printing press were Bibles, Even then, in England, there were laws against translating the Bible into English. New ideas aren't welcome in belief systems where infallibility is sort of accepted. It's like Dawkins says, religion teaches you to be content with the world around you, rather than to search out new information, new answers.
Yeah, but all right. So when the printing press was first going and they printed Bibles, that was because that was the book people wanted. That was the book that people wanted to read, which is understandable because that's probably the only book they ever saw in their lifetimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. A lot of people back then, a personal library. I think Erasmus had like 100 books or something like that. That was his library, and he was an amazing scholar. I have more books than that. See that? I'm going to send this video back in time. Suck it, Erasmus. I've got more books than you. Sure, it was probably the only book people knew about. Books were very, very hard to come by, mostly because they had to be written out by hand before the printing press.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like thinking about this, those ideas of this modern age we live in and embracing new technologies, and it just not all religious, but it just seems like the ultra religious seem to be opposed to progress and that just moving forward in general.
Yeah, well, in order to accept, I mean, you're beginning to see it with the more liberal, religions where progress isn't seen as such a hindrance. You get the the biologos guys who embrace the idea of evolution. You get Presbyterians and Episcopalians who accept ideas like
What's going on?
Gay clergy and whatnot. But by and large, orthodoxy is orthodoxy because it clings to a status quo. Progress undermines status quos, so they don't really like progress. And information is, the lifeblood of progress. What are you guys whispering about?
We are whispering.
We
I know, I can hear it because it's almost like a comical, like cartoon whisper coming from.
I'm sorry,
Jason. So yeah, that's. I think that's the typical religious stance on information, especially in an information age when information is so, widely available.
I think I read it when this is all starting to blur together with me, all the crap I read. But it was it may have been something I was reading when we were talking about the motivated reasoning, and there's this effect now that there is so much information out there that 100 years ago you and I would have read the same books, the same newspapers. We would largely have gotten all of our information from the same source, and now. Those sources of information, they're so diverse and so many, and there's so many voices out there that people tend to gravitate to the ones in which it fits their already preconceived notion of the world, and, they just sort of get their ideas bounced back at them. But it's coming from so many different directions that even if that person has some kind of wacky, crazy idea, anything else out there that's opposed to it, the assumption is you're getting the information from the same places that I am. That's sort of like how people assume it works. And then if you have a different idea than I do, you have been misinformed and you are part of a larger, maybe conspiracy, if it gets that sinister. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I understand where you're coming from. It's becoming in sociology. It's called a blase mentality. The idea is like in sociology is that when you're in a city, you sort of tune things out because all the information, all the sensory perception that's just you're bombarded with is too much. So you sort of just focus in on things that are pertinent to you. Say like. When I got my first car, I was 18 years old. It was a 1982 Volkswagen Rabbit. I had never seen a car like that before, and then all of a sudden I started seeing them everywhere.
Oh, yeah, now you look and they're everywhere.
Exactly. Does that mean there are more Volkswagen Rabbits? No. It just means that now that I have one, it's pertinent to me, and I begin to notice them, and those are the things that you focus in on. And I think it's the same way with information, where, if you're a believing Christian or, say, a Muslim or a Hindu, you're going to focus in on those things that are pertinent to you. You're very rarely going to notice, the green Camry as opposed to the blue Volkswagen Rabbit. Yeah,
that's a good analogy. I think that hits it right on the head. And the other part was that if somebody has a different idea or a different notion, then they must be misinformed, or they must be getting their information from an unreliable source.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think there was a guy who wrote a book about it called The Fox Effect.
I'm sure we've always known that person. Everyone knows that guy who everything he has is always the best thing ever. He buys a new car and all of a sudden he's like, dude, this is the best car ever. It's this and this and that and this and that. He buys a new computer. It's the best computer ever. Jason, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
It's got this processor. It's the best computer on the market, but it's not really. it's just his perception that it is because it's his. And I feel like
Let me
that
tell you
leads
something.
into a lot of other
If it wasn't for the
areas.
best stuff, we wouldn't be doing this show. I'm looking at you.
He'd have one of those used TriCasters.
I would
Yeah.
have that, yeah.
And I think that bleeds over into spiritual belief too, where when you have that spiritual belief, it's the best one ever. Everything else is sort of crap compared to it.
No, yeah, I suppose so.
I was going to plug Matt's show, but he just said 3D sucks, so nobody go listen to it.
He's not gonna. Yeah,
It's awesome.
well, I'm glad that those non-religious groups are growing. I think I'll need to look at how the questions are answered or what they tease out of the data, but it is a pretty interesting number.
Yeah. Speaking of all this, whoa, I can hear myself. Nope, now I can't anymore. Speaking of all these studies and stuff, I want to segue into our next thing, because there were a lot of really questionable studies and facts. That's something I did. So over the week, I had a friend come down from Toronto, stay with me here in Los Angeles, and we decided
is he sad?
What's that?
Was he sad on Saturday
When he left?
when
Yeah.
the Toronto
Oh.
Marlies lost to the Norfolk Admirals?
Oh yeah, I'm sure he probably didn't care.
I'm sorry.
But so we went to the Dianetics Center here in Los Angeles, right down the street from where I live. It's a massive blue compound. And as Matt actually commented when I posted it on Facebook, yeah, it's a compound. It used to be a hospital.
It's
And,
a compound.
We got a tour, and it is creepy. It's awesome, though.
It's awesomely creepy.
Oh, awesome! Like, I got so much free stuff.
Did you get an e-meter?
Just a stack of free DVDs right here, tons of them.
No shit.
And I've been meaning to watch them all before the show, but I didn't get a chance to.
So let me guess. You and Rochelle are going to make some popcorn, sit down one evening, and watch them all together, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. These are great. So when you walk in, it's actually a really nice building. But then again, for the amount of money they fleece out of their people, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. It takes a lot of money to be a Scientologist. I almost wanted to tell people that when they would come up to you, because they have people that walk around and come up to you and be like, "Oh, are all your questions being answered?" And they want to get you to take the stress test or whatever it is. And I almost wanted to be like, "Listen, you don't want me. I don't have enough money to be a Scientologist."
Yeah. I don't have nearly enough money.
Yeah, right. But there's you walk in and they bring you over to an area where there's these big sort of they're like big panels, and on either end there's DVDs, and then over here there's benches and TVs where you can watch videos about stuff, and each one is set up with a different thing. So it's the life of L. Ron Hubbard, and then about Dianetics, and about what is Scientology, and not enough stuff about aliens, though. I was very disappointed.
That's the secret info.
That's the secret info. I know. But you figure they'd throw it in there just because it's all out on the table anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? Everybody knows. I watch South Park too.
Yeah, right. But man, do they make L. Ron Hubbard out to be the fucking greatest superhero who ever lived, ever. They're he's a 6-year-old boy riding, barely broken in Broncos on his father's ranch. And, he was a member of the Explorers Club, and he did the first complete mineralogical survey of Puerto Rico. And, he was a master mariner during World War II, so he could captain any ship in the U.S. fleet. And, he was Indiana Jones, and Han Solo wrapped in one. He studied psychology.
So I'd heard of a quote attributed to L. Ron Hubbard, and I've always wondered if it's true, and maybe you know. And the quote was that Hubbard supposedly said that writing pays pretty well, but the real money is in religion.
As far as I know, that is a real quote.
Well, I may be paraphrasing a bit, but there it is.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you don't have the quote in front of you, so you don't know exactly what for word, but yeah, as far as I know, that's something he actually did say.
I wonder if that was on the wall.
No. I mean, judging by the setup of Scientology, I mean, it's certainly something he believed.
So did you go and have an e-meter session?
No, I didn't.
We
got way too creeped out. Too many people started coming up to us after like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes inside the center, just watching
Were they wearing
the videos.
Star Trek uniforms?
Yeah, I did. I saw one of the guys in the weird Navy uniform that they all wear.
That is strange. Now they have uniforms too. That's weird.
Yeah, it's like a paramilitary thing, man. It's
Bob says that wearing his uniform of the zombie popcorn T-shirt. Mandatory.
It's not a uniform.
Mandatory for every shirt.
I wear this shirt to show it was the next one clean.
You drank the Kool-Aid.
I did drink the Kool-Aid.
It's funny.
We don't have mandatory uniforms.
That's what you think.
In fact, I know this is this is radio and all, but I woke up late today. It was a shower optional morning.
Yeah.
Extra deodorant and wrote my body an IOU. Don't even start with uniforms.
Well, since we're at this part of the conversation, we should do it's at the break time.
Oh, so we've always wanted to talk about Scientology a little bit, and a good primer to Scientology is our book that we're going to recommend for the week, and Ken has it.
It's Janet Reitman's Inside Scientology, the story of America's most secretive religion. This is actually something that I heard about a while back, and Matt brought it up before the show. And I think it's definitely one worth listening to. I think I'm going to end up downloading this myself because I don't know a lot about Scientology. I know the basics, and I got the tour and saw all the stuff, which we'll continue talking about after this. But this is the one book that I think gets brought up the most whenever people are talking about Scientology. She seems to have sort of an insider perspective to what outsiders sort of can only glance at.
Is she being currently sued?
I actually don't know, probably. I know Scientology is very litigious. So let's look it up. Janet. Should have looked this up before.
And while he's looking it up, if you want to pick up this book for free, you can get it at audibletrial.com/TNRL. That's audibletrial.com/TNRL.
Yes.
Sign up for your free 30-day trial and then get a free download.
All right. I don't see her being sued anywhere. Yeah, definitely pick it up. It's a free ebook. Come on, guys. Sign up for the free trial and download it.
The chat room is asking what is the website again, so that's audibletrial.com.
It's www.
Well, nobody does www anymore. You can still type audibletrial.com/TNRL.
And TNRL is our clever abbreviation for this non-religious life.
It's only 15 hours and 40 minutes long.
Who's it read by?
Right.
It's read by Stephen Hoy.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either. But hopefully he has a nice reading voice.
I'm amazed that Scientology persists even after all of the wacky Xenu secret knowledge got put out into the the public domain, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's.
Whoops.
I guess that's fair. Modern religions almost have to out crazy older religions, and that's. I don't want to sound like I'm being a dick about it, but that's just how I feel. Like I know the claims aren't really, when you break them down, crazier, but I think we're more used to hearing the crazy claims from Christianity and Islam and Judaism, and Hinduism, that Mormonism and Scientology and Krishna consciousness all have to step it up a notch. They really need to crank up the crazy, crank up the crazy claims, in order to really reel in the followers. Everyone's used to dying, rising God, had that forever. Galactic overlord Xenu, who conspired with psychiatrists to drug everyone and stack them around volcanoes and drop H-bombs in it so that we can all be reincarnated into animals on this planet. But yeah, that's way better.
Right, that's way better. I don't know. It's a heart of it. Doesn't a ridiculous? Well, all right, I don't say ridiculous. An unsubstantiated claim is an unsubstantiated claim, and I don't know. I just yeah, you're right. I don't want to be a dick about it, but a guy rising from the dead and healing the sick and walking on water is just as implausible as Xenu and the rest of it.
Yeah, if you want to be a skeptic about it,
if you don't want to believe in science,
yeah, right. I mean, Scientology has the word science in it.
I know it sounds sciencey.
Yeah. It's yeah. It's all the same crazy. It's just different flavors of crazy. When you've been fed vanilla your whole life, chocolate seems a lot better.
Yeah, it's one crazy claim is the same as another crazy claim.
Absolutely.
So, I can't believe you didn't get an e-meter session. That would have been like my number one to do thing.
Well, we can go do it here.
There's a Scientology center here?
I'm sure there is. I mean, they're everywhere.
They are everywhere. I know if you guys go up to D.C., I know it's a little ways, but if you go up to D.C., there's a really big one up at DuPont Circle. I used to pass by it every day.
I'm sure there's a center at Regent University we could just go to.
Yeah. I don't think they'll let that go.
I want to talk about some of the claims that they had, because some of the different things that they do, everyone thinks about Scientology, they think of the Tom Cruise and all the crazy celebrities and lots of money and then e-meters and stuff like that. But they have some serious stuff that they do, with convicts and drug education and stuff like that. And some of the claims are just crazy. Also, the all different videos talking about different things. And I noticed something. My friend Steve didn't notice it until we were walking back to my house, and I brought it up. The only videos subtitled in Spanish were the ones about drugs. And I don't know if that's just a coincidence or a sort of subtle racist undertone, but I noticed it. Because at first I thought the subtitles were just on, and I was like, oh, tried to shut them off, but you couldn't shut them off. And then the second video we watched about their drug thing was also subtitled in Spanish.
Well, what else happened to you there? What do these people say when they came up to you? Were you asking questions and they were answering them, or?
We were just sort of poking around. I didn't want to get into too deep of a discussion with anyone because it was already kind of creepy. People walking around in weird sort of Navy uniforms.
It would be Air Force.
Well,
Starfleet.
Navy, because they have a weird ship thing. I don't know, because maybe he was L. Ron Hubbard was a master mariner, but we'd watch the videos, and every now and then someone would come over and be like, "Oh, do you want tea or water or anything?" I was
Don't
like,
drink
"I'm
it."
not drinking anything here." Put saltpeter in it. But it was interesting to see the videos, which are amazingly produced, by the way. Like,
Well, yeah, money will make things
these
look
aren't
great.
hack job things. I mean, they gave away. I have a small book called Personal Efficiency. I have one about the Volunteer Minister Program. It's a DVD.
Ooh,
The Life of L. Ron Hubbard, which is a DVD. Scientology an Overview. Foundation for a Drug-Free World. Dianetics an Introduction. United for Human Rights. And the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. Which the last two, I believe, is actually all about the pharmaceutical industry.
I think it's funny, like that they're dressing these things up in very benign and almost like positive sounding rhetoric. Like the Coalition for Human Rights. Well, who wouldn't be for that? I'm interested. I want to hear what that's all about. But then you get more involved, and then it's like, no, these people are crazy. It's like the when we were talking about those Christian groups that are like the American Family Association.
Yeah.
They put these fuzzy, warm and cuddly names on things, and then have a more, I don't even want to say sinister agenda, but I don't have a better term for it.
Well, I mean, it's like what Matt and I talked about in our new show that broadcast this last week.
You have a new show?
We have a new show.
Really?
Yes. And
Do say.
I will tell you about it. But we talked about it. You made me lose my train of thought. But the new show is Coalesce. You made me lose my train of thought, but I'll come back to that.
Yeah. Ken has a cat.
I have a cat in my lap. She jumped up here.
Oh no, it's like I mentioned in the show that I felt that the Christian movement, Christians in general, are being used or being played, and they're being played by the racist and by the Republicans, and especially when it comes to homosexuality, or gay marriage, they're totally being played with it, and the right wing groups that start like the Family Association or America, whatever the funded Rick Perry's, whoever that group was, they have these soft names so they can push this stuff, so Christians will buy into it. People who feel and have value in their morals and their convictions and will buy into it easier because it sounds good. I mean, who doesn't want to be against family?
I'm all for American families.
But they're totally being played.
Well, apparently this is a tried and true tactic.
It definitely.
Yeah, well, I think we had a show about this exact topic, and it seemed like the more nice the name sounds, the worse the group is.
Yeah.
The American Society for Baskets of Puppies for Every Citizen is, actually, trying to raise the great old ones.
I just if Scientology is so opposed to drugs,
That's not a group, Matt.
They take it to a weird extreme where they're opposed to pharmacological drugs altogether. It's not just drugs are bad; it's that these drugs are bad and they're going to ruin your life. So instead, give us all your money and we'll ruin your life. Like we'll do it for you.
Yeah, it does seem like that. And they have these like really loaded studies. I saw one, and I'm sorry, like the sociologist in me like cringed at some of the claims they made. Like their prison inmate program reduced recidivism from 90% to 2%.
What?
And I was like, no fucking way, man. Like, show me those studies. I want to see those numbers. Because
You
there's
didn't- you
absolutely
didn't
no way.
ask
I don't
to
care
see it?
what it is. If you're dropping recidivism in prison inmates from 90 to 2, I want to see it.
Yeah, that's a bold claim.
And for anyone who doesn't know what recidivism means, it means repeat offenders.
Going back to jail.
Yeah.
Why can't they just use the word repeat offenders?
Because recidivism sounds better.
Yeah. But it's the technical term.
More precise language. Yeah, so what are they doing to get these guys? Like, maybe the study was like 3 guys.
Yeah, right. It had to be something
A
ridiculous.
real low
Or,
number.
I mean, talking about like, white collar offenders or something. I don't know.
It's like, did you steal bubble gum? Yes. Did you get punished for it? Yes. Will you do it again? No.
No.
Victory!
Yeah. It's definitely a biased survey because there's no way they're dropping. Like, I don't care what it is. Secular, religious, whatever. There's nothing that's going to drop recidivism from 90 to 2.
That's crazy. That's really a lot.
Like, that's completely contrary to short of reforming the prison system in and of itself. There's no way to do that. When people get locked up in prison, do you know what happens? They become better criminals. Like, it's basic socialization.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't Scientology do these other sort of like classic religious group tactics, like if somebody steps out of line, they do shunning?
Yeah, they're really big on the shunning, apparently.
What's going on with Travolta right now?
Is he being shunned?
He is being shunned.
Oh.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. God, and even after he made that terrible movie.
Are you talking about Battlefield Earth?
Yes.
That was an
that
awful movie. That was an awful movie.
awful.
So I mean, you brought it up, Jason. What is going on with John Travolta?
I don't know the full details. I had a conversation in passing about it. I haven't read up on it, so I can't really give full details.
Yeah.
But apparently, the rumor is, from what I understand from the third party, I haven't read anything about it, is that he wants to leave Scientology.
That would be awesome.
And there is a campaign going against him now, saying that, hitting the media, that he likes tan boys. He likes tan boys a lot.
Well, you know what?
And so they're trying to smear him and destroy his career, or something's happening. And a spokesperson for Travolta, or somebody within the industry that knows Travolta, came out and said that, so supposedly he's close to him, said that it was just part of the Scientologists trying to discredit him, trying to destroy his image so they can say, no, we rejected him because he's this bad person.
Right.
But again, I haven't read the details to it, so I can't give great,
There was a that would be great if John Travolta gets out of Scientology, because he's like their high profile guy. There's like him and Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And that would be great if he gets out and has something to say about it.
Yeah. I love the idea of like someone leaving and then the church being like, no, we're kicking you out.
Yeah.
It's an old tactic. It's a really old tactic.
But are we shocked that they would do something like
in
that?
The Catholic Church between the East and West, where they mutually excommunicated each other, or
I'm going to excommunicate you. No, I'm excommunicating you first.
You can't fire me.
Yeah, I quit.
they both levied the same charges against each other.
That's
or
just silly.
Henry VIII, when Henry VIII started his own church, and the Catholic Church was like, "Oh yeah, well we're kicking you out," and he's like, "Well, I don't care."
Well, speaking of being kicked out and so forth, what do you think of the Catholic Church about to have all the financial paperwork exposed, and it's just
one more black eye.
I think it's going to be a shitstorm.
I don't think
I'm sure
they could take.
have.
Huh?
I'm sure they have lots of stuff that they're hiding in their paperwork and their finances. That just it's going to be a very it's going to be a bad thing for them.
Have you seen? I think that's interesting too, because now, like, right, all this financial stuff is going to hit the fan, and the accusation running around now is like they refuse to pay for contraception for their secular workers, and yet it's okay for them to have basically hush money for these pedophile priests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, there was an article. Well, I want to say it was. I think it was a UK publication saying that the priests in court were acting very out of character. They were like, "I've already paid for my, transparency," and they would storm out of the courtroom. And there's this big dramatic coming from priests and stuff, and the fact that they're saying that they've already paid for their transparency, they don't need to be in front of the courts, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I can see their frustration. Did have you seen that the Freedom from Religion Foundation has like a big full page ad? There was one in, I think, USA Today, and they did it in the New York Times, and it was their open letter to a Catholic nation, and their the thesis in the letter is it's time to quit the Catholic Church. Look what they're doing. Look what they have done. Look where it's going, and stand up for yourself. And they're getting a lot of negative feedback from it. Like, people are tearing it out and writing all sorts of really hateful things on it and mailing it back to them. And they just keep posting. They just keep posting these hate mails on their Facebook page and kind of laughing about it.
Well, let's look at the flip side of that. What ripples would it send through the economy and the world, and not just in the United States, if, let's say, 60% of the population of the Catholic Church walked away?
I don't know.
I don't think there'd be economic repercussions, because I don't think the Catholic Church is that much of an economic power. I would say they're probably an economic drain. They even though they have tax-free status, they still get a lot. I was reading this thing about where a lot of like Catholic charities, they're in everybody's mind, the Catholic charity is funded by the Catholic Church, which in turn is funded by donations from the faithful, right? That's the idealized version, but that's not true. What happens is these Catholic charities, they're only partially funded by the church, and the rest of the money they get from federal subsidies. So the Catholic charities are funded with federal dollars.
So what about the charities if they stop getting funding? I mean, how many Catholic? Because there's hospitals. But my point is, they're already funded by federal dollars. If you took away the church dollars, it's still there. Oh.
Yeah, you just have to see how much percentage is church dollars.
It's
are we
probably
talking
something else
90,
I read
10,
somewhere.
or are we talking 50-50?
I don't think it's 50-50. The implication was that the large majority of money, the majority of money comes from federal subsidies.
Crazy.
Meaning, if you took away the church dollars, the charitable organization would still have money to operate.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you're right, and it would depend on the particular charity. I'm sure there's lots of cases to look at. We have to look at the particulars, but by and large, this seems to be the case.
Yeah, I guess we have to look at the books themselves and see, the Catholic Church does do a lot of decent things as far as charity is concerned, but I mean, I don't know if those good things outweigh the absolutely horrible things.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is, like, if outside of the hospitals being funded by the federal government, other charities that are not, I guess, as big as the hospitals, what ripple effect would it have on those groups?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I forget where I read that thing, but So the story they told went like this: Catholic Church has some well-meaning intentions, and they start a shelter, like say a shelter for battered women or something like that. They start a program to help, battered women. Great, that sounds awesome. Who wouldn't want to get behind that? And so they get some money together, they start the charity, and then they operate for a few years. But then the higher-ups in the Catholic Church change. The church dollars go away. And then the charity still wants to operate because those people still want to continue to do this good work.
Just because the leaders change doesn't mean the suffering ends.
And so what they do is they jump through the hoops, and then they apply for federal dollars, and they get them. And so these Catholic charities become increasingly funded by federal dollars.
So pretty much that's what would happen if
Right.
majority of. Cool.
Something interesting to look into. So,
and like I said, you'd have to, if you really want to look into it in nitty gritty, you'd have to get it see it case by case. But
case by case and nuance. What are you talking about? That's not how reality works.
That's not how governments work. That's for sure.
Bureaucracy is your friend.
Yeah, I'm always reminded of. Did you ever see that movie? Old School, which was a pretty stupid comedy where the guys
Jack Black?
start their. No, it was Luke Smith or Luke Wilson and
It sounds familiar.
Vince Vaughn. They start a fraternity.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which was really stupid, but there's this one awesome scene where the dean of students is like saying to his assistant, like, I thought you shut them down. I thought you said they weren't going to be able to do this. And the guy's like, well, I thought so too, but apparently they're really good at paperwork. Because the guy's like, they're idiots. How could they succeed? Well, they're really good at paperwork.
That's funny.
That's how it works.
That is how it works.
I know.
You got to be able to do the bureaucratic bullshit and jump through the hoops.
Yeah,
And I bet there's people in the Catholic Church that are awesome at that.
That's all they do. The guy that's living under in the windowless cell right now for doing the paper.
Yeah.
How to get out of, pederasty suits.
Yeah. This is just one more black eye for the Catholic Church. I mean, it used to be people stood up and were proud to be Catholic, but anymore, I bet it's getting harder and harder.
So are we witnessing, do you think in our lifetime we would witness a fall of a religion? I mean, because we talk about there's been so many religions throughout time that have come and gone. Are we going to, in our lifetime, witness one to disintegrate?
I don't know.
It's possible. Even when you're talking about Christianity in general, there are huge portions of Christianity that have gone into like one denomination and then fallen apart and become other denominations. In post-Reformation, there were tons of denominations that no longer exist.
I bet it's a lot like Dawkins compared religious ideas to, he called them memes. And he said that memes go through an evolutionary process, and if you think of things in evolutionary terms, there's a lot more there's a lot more animals, there's a lot more biology that's extinct than there is alive. So, how many memes, how many religious traditions have died than compared to what's alive now?
Yeah,
I mean, sure, some have lasted longer and been more successful, but there's a lot more religious ideas that are dead than are alive and kicking.
Yeah, more ways to be dead than there are to be alive, and I think that goes for everything. Look at the Shakers. How many Shakers are still around?
For some reason, I thought you said swingers, and then it registered in my. I was like, "That's different."
Exact opposite, actually.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The exact opposite of swingers. Look at Appalachian snake handlers. They're going by the wayside. They were much more popular in the early 20th century than they are now.
But they're dying out for a different reason.
Yeah, well.
Well, when your faith is that dangerous, yes.
Well, in speaking in an evolutionary context, the guy whose faith requires him to handle poisonous snakes does not seem to have an evolutionary advantage. That just doesn't seem like it's going to survive.
No, definitely not.
Unless
Definitely not.
unless evolution picks him up and he becomes immune to the poison because
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some of those guys who deserve the Darwin Award. Decided it's like the guy who decided to see how many great white sharks he could kiss on the nose before finally getting eaten by one.
How did we get this far with stuff
Well,
like
I don't
that?
know, it's just, we're talking about I think that you can religious ideas. I think you can look at in an evolutionary context. I mean, and Dawkins does that in The Selfish Gene, where he says, biology doesn't just evolve; ideas evolve too, and they go through the same process. It's the same process that drives biologic evolution, drives the evolution of ideas. It's
Yeah.
pressures to succeed. How well does it duplicate? How well does it pass itself on? What's the strength of the idea?
Yeah. And just like biological evolution, things can go uphill, but they can't really come back down. Have you ever seen it's actually a brilliant analogy. Dawkins has a mountain range, and he says that in evolution, you can go up the mountain, but you can't really come back down. So you have these species that get up to the top of one peak, and then they're stuck there, while there's a whole other range of peaks. So once they get to one peak, they can't really come back down to climb another peak. They're just stuck there.
He likes the mountain analogy.
He does.
He uses that a lot. And in fact, he wrote a book about it called Climbing Mount Improbable.
Yeah. It's cool when he has his diorama there, and he's like the mountain range, and
Has little goats. Oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
little do you
that's
know,
interesting.
mountain
You know
goats
what,
are actually
thinking-
highest rung of the evolutionary ladder.
Thinking about where we started the whole conversation about the information age and churches dealing with technology, there's a new evolutionary pressure on religion, on religious thought and religious ideas. And you're going to see big change. And you're going to see big change. If the Catholic... So here's the thing, right? We're wondering what's going to happen to the Catholic Church. We could speculate all we want, but I think it's going to come down to either adapt or die. And the way to adapt, I think, for the Catholic Church anyway, is allow priests to marry. So they either have sweeping reform and adapt, or they go away.
With that, we should wrap it up.
Okay.
On that.
Oh yeah, I guess it does.
Hey, let's take 2 minutes, and I want to talk about the new show.
Okay, talk about it.
Well, tell me what it is.
Well,
We're
everyone.
not on it, Jason. You
sorry.
are.
Anyway, Matt in the chat room, as you know, he's been on this show many of times, twice.
I've met him a time or two.
Yes. We've talked several times about, let me give a background. If you don't know who Matt is, he's an attendee of Regent University, an advisor, I guess. I don't want to speak for him or promote, but he's Christian and a devout Christian, and we've got together to do a show. And as you know, that I am a atheist and activist, more predominantly than atheist. So we decided to get together because there's two spheres of worldviews, and they clash. And throughout my entire life of being an activist, there's been common denominators that I'm faced with at every protest, at every just advocacy campaign that I've ever worked on. There's always been, I've always can put money down and said, I guarantee this will come up, this will come up, and this will come up. We will be faced with these issues. And one of those things is the religious worldview, the Christian worldview on stuff. And it's, in my experience, it's never been in favor of progress. It's never been in favor of changing the worldview, of making the world a better place. and I say that with broad strokes because I do understand that there are charity groups out there who are trying to work to make, that are Christian based, that are working to make the world a better place. But as I mentioned earlier, there are Christians who are being played by certain forces in this country to focus on issues that don't matter, that harm people, that hurt people, and that hinder progress of us evolving to become a better world. So Matt and I got together so we can come sit at a table and talk about our worldviews, try to come up with solutions, highlight groups that are both religious and non-religious, who are working to make the world a better place, and try to find that bridge so we can come together to work on issues that really make a difference. Because what doesn't make a difference is if you believe in God or if you don't believe in God. If there's suffering going on, if there's somebody, like the analogy we made in the movie in the last episode, if you walk upon a car crash and there's somebody bleeding and there's no other help, there's no paramedics, they're suffering and only you can save them. I don't know anybody who walks up and see a cross on their neck or what would Jesus do bracelet and say, well, I'm not going to help you because I don't believe in your worldview. All that shit flies out the window when it comes to helping people. And I think we as a society have got caught up way too much in our worldview that we forget that we can help somebody else when they're in need. It doesn't have to necessarily be suffering. You can be feeding them when they're, when they're living paycheck to paycheck and can't, pay their rent. You can help them. You can invite them over for dinner for that week until they get back, Yeah. It doesn't have to be a religious or a non-religious, an atheist versus Christian, a Buddhist versus whatever. It can be us coming together to solve what we consider are important. And I think everyone in this world believes that we believe in peace. We want world peace. We want to end hunger. We want to end slavery. We want to do that, but we get caught up in our ideologies that it holds us back. So in short, this show here is to highlight that, to focus and analyze it. Why did this happen, and try to come up with a solution. And it's really fun. Yeah,
well, I watched the first one. It was very good. I like that idea of, there's lots to be gained in finding our shared humanity, and Matt's a good guy for it.
He is. Mm-hmm. So that's it. So
and what's the name of the show again?
That show will broadcast every other week on Zombie Popcorn. Just the same way, if you're watching this show and you're on Zombie Popcorn, it's just going to be in the same format. You can just go there and watch it, and it's pretty awesome. You want to take us out?
Say the name of the show.
You want to say the name of the show?
No.
We fight over the name, so I'm not going to say it.
Awesome.
You'll just have to go to the website.
You just have to. No, it's Coalesce. So.
So anyone who's out there, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to correct me on something about Scientology or your views on Catholic charities.
Where can they send the cease and desist letter?
You can send the cease and desist letter. You can contact us at 757-337-2195. You can email us at nonreligious@zombie-popcorn.com. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thisnonreligiouslife. Put us in your circles on Google+, iTunes. You can find us there, download the episodes. This is like 50-something. I'd have to check. Way more than I ever thought we were ever going to do, which is amazing.
We're going to have to take a poll and like see who has the process server knocking on their door first.
Yeah, right. Stitcher, you can not even download or sync any of the shows. You can just, rate them and listen to them there. It's just sort of live on the go. And you can always just come to the website, zombiepopcorn.com, and you can catch us there or watch the show live every Monday at 12 Eastern Time. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. Always doing awesome things with the site. Always new giveaways, new shows.
We're still giving away your book.
A lot of time into it. So that's your one stop right there. With that, I think that's everything, and we'll see you next week.
Take it easy.
Bye. Thanks for listening.
Good show. Good
That
show.
was a good show.
Good show.
It got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. It got out here. Then I read that this Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel